Boosie is speaking out after a school principal was placed on administrative leave, and it's all connected to a visit he made to a local school. Apparently, shortly after Boosie showed up, the principal faced consequences for allowing him on campus. Now, on the surface, that might seem a little extreme, especially considering the kids seemed genuinely excited, even singing along to his music. But the reality is, the principal may have simply skipped the proper approval process before setting the whole thing up. No official clearance, no administrative sign-off, and that's likely what triggered the fallout. We don't have the full picture just yet, but that seems to be the core of it. What's also worth noting is that Boosie has been extremely active lately, showing up and making moves. Ever since his split from Vlad TV, he's been on a mission to prove he's operating at a higher level than ever before. Whether that's actually the case remains to be seen, but he's clearly not sitting still. Now, before we get into what Boosie had to say about the school situation, and that story does go a little further back, there's something else on his agenda worth paying attention to first. He's been talking about acquiring land, and that conversation is just as interesting. So let's start there, then circle back to everything else.
This land today, 20 plus acres. I meet with the guy in the next 2 weeks again. I need my prayer warriors. Say a prayer, I get this property. I'm gonna do something special with it. Right? I'm excited like a motherfucker. So all my prayer warriors who see this post, say a prayer that this land become mine.
But here's the thing. He might want to pump the brakes a little, because that steady income he was pulling in through Vlad TV, that's no longer flowing the way it used to. The financial picture has shifted, and that's something worth keeping in mind as we watch all these moves he's making. Anyway, let's get back on track. Where was that school story again? Let's find it and get into it.
Drop on my Instagram, and I'm asking that the school board in Lafayette, please allow this man to be principal again. This man had no ill wills towards anything. I did not rap. This man was looking out for them students. He said, just give them kids some positive words. And that's what I did. They asked me positive questions. He had no ill will towards nothing. He was thinking about them kids. Even some of the worst kids, he made me talk to them and give them some knowledge about trouble. This man had no ill intentions. So if anybody from the Lafayette school board hear what I'm saying, can you please?
All right, so let's get into it. Word is Boosie's situation got pretty heated. We'll keep an eye on how that plays out. Now, Vlad TV dropped a diss track aimed at Aries Spears after Spears threatened legal action against him. Vlad basically responded with a music video, and honestly, it's more entertaining than anything else. Head over to Vlad TV's Instagram if you want to check it out yourself. It's worth a watch. Moving on, Spirit Airlines is officially done. Now, there's a slim chance they could resurface, but don't hold your breath. The government put one final offer on the table, a $500 million bailout where the U.S. would hold roughly 90% ownership and get paid back before any creditors or private investors if the airline collapsed again. Spirit's debt is reportedly somewhere between $3 and $5 billion, which is staggering when you consider the airline isn't even valued anywhere close to that based on its stock price. From what I've heard, Citadel was among the investors who blocked the deal, so that was that. The airline will likely fold completely, though it's possible someone could come in afterward and acquire the planes or routes and build something new out of the wreckage, just not the budget carrier it once was. It's worth mentioning there used to be an airline called AirTran that met a similar fate, though Southwest absorbed them rather than letting them disappear entirely. Honestly, it's surprising Southwest didn't make a move on Spirit since their route maps largely overlap, but maybe that's exactly why they didn't bother. Here's what makes this whole thing even more frustrating. Spirit filed for bankruptcy twice in roughly 3 years. They also tried to merge with JetBlue at one point, and that deal got blocked by regulators. Had that merger gone through, it likely would have saved the airline entirely. Instead, approximately 17,000 employees are now out of work. And JetBlue isn't in a position to revisit that deal now either. They're dealing with their own financial headwinds, with rising fuel costs. Delta, meanwhile, seems to be the one major carrier weathering the storm relatively well. There's a well-known reason for that. Back around 2012, Delta made the unusual move of purchasing its own oil refinery, which gave them more control over fuel costs than any of their competitors. A bold call that's paying off.
For the OTF Jam, hey bro, you gotta have a strong ass stomach to be able to look yourself in the mirror after what you did to your brother. Smirk, aka Lil Durk. Then you jump on Instagram and drop your low, which I think is a fake low. Drop your low and talking tough with your chest out like you done did some commendable shit. You put the in jail. They gave you $50,000 when you got out, helped you get a crib, car, and took care of your people while you was gone.
And honestly, he's not wrong. What's happening there is genuinely calculated. Check out his page if you get the chance. He puts out solid content on this kind of thing. And clearly, the man knows how the streets operate. We already covered the Delta fuel situation, so let's move on. Now, Supreme McGriff's son is out here posting lifestyle content that clearly doesn't match his reality. Pulling up next to a Rolls Royce like it's his, flexing for the camera, is transparent to anyone paying attention. And look, beyond the clout chasing, the real concern is what that kind of image attracts. He's putting a target on himself without seeming to understand the weight of that. That's genuinely sad to say out loud. His father, by all accounts, would have wanted something completely different for him, a different path, a different life. It's hard to watch. Tekashi is set to make his return on Kick. His debut stream is scheduled for the 6th. We'll see how that lands. A man was arrested following a shooting outside Chris Brown's Los Angeles home. Honestly, there always seems to be some kind of incident connected to that property. The house itself looks impressive, solar panels on the roof, well put together. And interestingly, there appears to be another property directly behind it that hasn't been developed. Knowing Chris Brown, there's a decent chance he owns that one too, possibly just to control who's living next door. Can't say I'd blame him. Jim Jones apparently made his way out to Turks and Caicos, which, as anyone following him knows, tends to happen right after Drake goes somewhere. Meanwhile, Cameron was spotted at the Formula One races, doing his thing on the sports scene as usual. Big 30 and Lil Trey the Truth have both entered not guilty pleas, which was expected. Big 30 is claiming his involvement has been overstated by the prosecution. We'll see how that argument holds up as the case develops. Freaky Zeke and Jim Jones are still going back and forth. The tension there seems rooted in the fact that Freaky Zeke, who used to be closely affiliated with Jim, is now aligned with Cameron, and Jim clearly hasn't let that go. Add in the fact that they're both pushing clothing ventures, and you've got a rivalry with a few different layers to it. On the Drake front, DJ Academics came out in defense of Drake after Joe Budden and others picked up a story claiming that Stake, the gambling company Drake has a sponsorship deal with, allegedly used funds from that partnership to artificially inflate Drake's streams. Academics pushed back hard, pointing out that the document being circulated had Drake's name misspelled in multiple places, which raises serious questions about its credibility. And honestly, that's a fair point. If a streaming service were going to bot plays, the benefit would go to the label, not to a gambling sponsor. The financial logic doesn't track. But more than that, if you're running a podcast with 5 hosts, 10 staff members, and a full production team behind it, there's simply no excuse for putting out a story without basic fact-checking. When you're operating at that level, due diligence isn't optional. That's the standard you're held to, and in this case, it doesn't look like anyone met it.